Welcome to the Candlelight Historian, where we explore the forgotten, the strange, and the shadows behind history's grand illusions. You walk into a barber shop, you expect a haircut, but instead he offers to pull your tooth, lance a boil, or even amputate your leg. No, this isn't the opening scene of a horror film. This was real life in medieval Europe, and behind the straight razors and the bloodletting bowls lies a story that connects surgery, superstition, and even the roots of vampire legends. This is the strange, forgotten world of the Barber-Surgeons and the blood-soaked legacy they left behind. A blade and a bowl, the birth of the barber-surgeon. In the early Middle Ages, medicine was dominated by monks. Monasteries had scriptoria for copying ancient texts, and infirmaries for tending to the sick. But in 1163, at the Council of Tours, the Church issued a decree, Ecclesia abhorret sanguine. The Church abhors blood. Monks were banned from performing surgery. So who stepped in to fill the gap? Barbers. They already owned razors. They were already skilled with their hands. So naturally, they took over tasks like bloodletting, lancing abscesses, and even performing minor surgeries. It wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. In a world where illness was often seen as divine punishment, draining blood wasn't just treatment. It was spiritual purification. What did a medieval barber surgeon actually do? Let's be clear, barbers didn't just cut hair. They pulled teeth, they set bones, they performed enemas, they stitched wounds, they carried leeches, they shaved heads for tonsures and surgeries alike. And yes, they carried out amputations. In fact, they were often the only people available to perform battlefield surgery. When knights returned from crusades or peasants lost limbs to farming accidents, it wasn't a university-trained physician who showed up. It was your local barber with a blade in one hand and maybe a bottle of wine in the other. They didn't have anesthesia. Pain was part of the process. Speed, however, was a barber surgeon's greatest skill, and his reputation depended on it. The red and white pole, a symbol of blood and bandages. Next time you walk past a barber shop and see that red and white striped pole, you're looking at one of the oldest surviving pieces of medical advertising in the world. The red represents blood, the white stands for bandages, and the pole itself? Originally, it was something patients would grip tightly while their veins were being opened during bloodletting. In medieval and early modern Europe, bloodletting was based on the belief in the four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you were too hot or too full of blood, you needed to be drained. It wasn't just pseudoscience. It was the dominant medical worldview for over 1,000 years. From cutting to status, the rise and fall of the barber-surgeon. As universities expanded in the late medieval period, a new class of physician emerged. They were Latin-speaking, book-trained, and increasingly hostile to the hands-on world of the barber-surgeon. A hierarchy formed. Physicians diagnosed and prescribed. Surgeons performed operations. Barber-surgeons were seen as low-class but indispensable. In 1540, Henry VIII merged the Company of Barbers and the Guild of Surgeons into one professional body, the Company of Barber-Surgeons. But over time, surgery became more prestigious. By the 18th century, the profession split. Barbers returned to cutting hair, while surgeons went on to found the Royal College of Surgeons. Still, the barber-surgeon's legacy lived on, not just in medicine, but in myth. Blood, fear, and the ritual of healing. Bloodletting wasn't just a medical treatment. In the medieval mind, it was part science, part ritual, and part performance. Many believed that illness came from an imbalance of the four humours, and bloodletting was the most direct way to restore harmony. But it also had deep symbolic weight. Cutting open a vein wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. It was a form of purging, of releasing what was corrupted within. The barber-surgeon became a kind of secular priest, wielding a blade instead of a blessing, a basin instead of a book. And while elite physicians debated Galen and Hippocrates, it was the barbers who touched the body, who witnessed pain, who left blood on their aprons. In this sense, the barber-surgeon stood at a strange crossroads between medicine and mortality. He was both healer and witness. Someone called when things were at their most desperate. From razors to residency, the lasting legacy. By the 1700s, the era of the barber-surgeon was coming to an end. Surgery was becoming professionalized. Scientific medicine was rising. Barbers returned to grooming, and surgeons to training. But their legacy still lingers. The red and white pole outside your barber shop, that's their flag. The phrase quack doctor, it comes from quacksalver, a peddler of salves and cure-alls, many of whom competed with barber-surgeons in crowded towns. And the entire concept of minor surgery, stitches, lancing, extractions, traces its lineage directly to the back rooms of medieval barbershops. They weren't just cutting hair, they were shaping the very foundations of modern medicine. No vampires, just sharp tools and sharper minds. In today's world, we separate beauty and medicine. We go to one place for a shave and another for surgery. But in the medieval world, those roles were tangled, stitched together by necessity, poverty, and practicality. The barber-surgeon may be long gone, but the scars, the symbols, and the stories remain. Thank you for watching The Candlelight Historian. If you found this episode illuminating, please give it a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more strange, forgotten chapters of our past.